So, how do you find a profitable tax sale market? A market that's not overrun with the competition and where you can still make some money. Today, I'm going to walk you through that process. I'm actually researching a county for my own personal benefit, but I wanted to just go ahead and record what I'm doing so I can take you along with me. So, what you're looking at here is the Citrus County, Florida official tax deed sale website run by a company called Real Foreclose or Real Tax Deed, who provides the software for the majority of the counties in the state of Florida. Now, what I like to do is I like to go back 1 year. So most of you folks understand that I prefer to sell properties very, very quickly. If I can sell it in 30 days or 60 days, that is exactly what I like to do. And we do have people that do that on a fairly regular basis. Actually, last week I posted about a gentleman who sold a property, I think in like 28 days, and he made 60 or 70 grand. He did very, very, if not more than money that I should have looked it up, but he made quite a bit of money very quickly. But I do understand that a lot of people in real estate, they go at it more of a conventional manner. They buy the property, they do the title search, they clear the title, they might go and mow the property or put a sign out there or clean the house out or whatever else it is. And by the time they get around to all this stuff when it comes to marketing the property and actually closing, it might take a year or longer. I'm totally aware of that. So for that purpose, I'll actually go back about a year ago to figure out what typical investors are doing in a certain area. So we're going to look at essentially 1 year ago, October 2024. We're going to take a look at the tax sales there to see if the folks that were spending the money at that time actually made anything off of their investment. You know, a lot of people want to look at the most recent sales, which is fantastic, but I want to know, did people actually make money? You know, I can look at a property and say, yeah, he probably overpaid. He probably got a good deal, probably did not, whatever it is. But these folks, they actually made money or they didn't make money, right? So let's take a look and see what is going on with these properties. So first one right off the bat, $35,100 opening bid. I'm sorry, winning bid. Go ahead and click on that. Click on the property appraiser's report and see if there's any sales data that has been recorded on this property. It looks like it was a mobile home somebody purchased. Okay. So October 2024, the gentleman paid 35,100 bucks and sold it 5 months later, 5 months and 2 days later for $65,000. It does say unable to process. That's a little concerning. Let's see if there's something weird going on with this deed or what the deal was. North Title Group out of Maitland, LLC, sells it to a husband and wife. Looks, everything's legit. Not sure why they tagged it like that, but everything's legit. So 65. Let's see. I got a little nifty calculator I'm going to bring over here. They paid $65,000. Let's see. And they sold it. I'm sorry. They sold it for $65,000 and they bought it for $35,100. They walked away. So basically, all I have here is I have a $2,000 title clearing, like a suit to quiet title. Actually, I don't see anything recording as the property, so they might have done that, and it didn't get recorded in the deed or on the official records, at least showing on the property assessor site, or maybe they did a tax foreclosure certification. I don't know, but for simplicity purposes, call it 2 grand. Although that number is probably high if they did a certification. Let's call commission at 6% if they happen to use it with a list of property with a realtor, and closing fees, title insurance, stuff like that when you go to sell at 2%. So you're at $22,000 net profit in 5 months. I mean, that's a pretty solid deal in my book. All right, so based just on that property right there, so far so good. Looks like a pretty profitable area. Something else I noticed about this too, there's a lot of properties here that have sold. You know, you'll see properties sometimes. We have 7 pages worth of properties. Now, obviously, there's redemptions here and there kind of sprinkled in. Sometimes you will see tax sale auctions that have had, you know, 10, 15 pages of properties, and every single one is redeemed. So just looking at this, I know that there is a good quantity of properties that actually make it to the tax sale, which is nice. Let's look at this one here. Okay, looks like yeah, it looks like there's some sort of issue with that property. It looks like it wasn't linked correctly by whoever inputted the information. So we're going to type, and we're actually do it the hard way. The very difficult way, copy and paste. It takes about 3 extra seconds. So we'll load this, and it was Caledonia. Let's see if this person has sold, and if so, if they made any money. If it'll load, there it goes. Okay, vacant. Okay, so this property has not been sold yet. $9,600. Has something recorded in it that might be the suit of quiet title or a deed from a former owner or something. 10 months later, so it looks like they're still working on that. So that property is not sold. That doesn't really help us out. Whether they made money or didn't make money, I don't know. They could be keeping this for like a rental or a long-term investment. There's no telling. Or it could be a loser. Let's see, 17-1. Let's take a look at this one and see what we have here. Accept the disclaimers. All right, single family home. Okay, so 17,200, and they sold it for 240. Yeah. Okay. So what happened was this, since there's no transaction in between, a builder bought the property for $17,200 in October of last year. And in March, they pulled a permit to build a single family home, and they sold it for $240,000. So I don't know what their margin is on a single family home. I don't even know who the builder was or anything else. But long story short, the builder went directly to the tax sale, bought the property at the tax sale, built a spec home on it, and then he resold that property. Now, a few builders do this from time to time, but the majority of builders that I know, they want to build. They don't want to have to go to tax sale. They don't have to worry about title issues. They don't have to worry about doing the research. They want to know, hey, is there a piece of property on this street for sale? By all means, if there is, I'll buy it, that kind of thing. They don't have to go through all of the the training and then knowledge it takes to invest in tax defaulted real estate. But obviously, this builder did. But a lot of times, you can actually just buy a property, buy a lot in an area of development, contact all the builders that are building there, and you will more than likely sell that property and make money off of it. Let's see here. That was 17. Here's one for 19. Let's see if we got anything that's going on here. Property appraisers. All right, so 19. Okay, same deal. Builder bought it for 19.1. It's probably the same exact builder too. Might have been the same exact house for all I know, but he sold it as a spec house, made some money. All right, so they paid 19.1. Let's keep rolling. Let's see what else we've got here. $15,010. Let's see what we got on this one. Okay, so this person bought it for 15.1, and they sold it for, that's pretty fast too. They sold it 2 days. I'm sorry, just less than 2 months, about a month and a half actually. Let's see. Well, they paid 15.1. I don't know about title clearing. I don't know if they list or anything else, but I always like to shoot my numbers pretty high. Gives me a more conservative idea of how much they made. So they made about $5,000 on this property after all expenses and stuff. If they had all these expenses, again, we don't know. They made $5,000 in a month and a half. I mean, that's a solid. That's a very solid return in my book. I would take that. So that was a good one. Let's see. The person paid 15.1. Here's a person that paid 20,510. Looks like they have not resold it yet. They still own that one. So, and again, yes, these are from a year ago, but it gives us an idea of what people are doing that, sell it on conventional methods, right? They're maybe listing with a realtor, they're maybe putting a sign out there, they're showing the property, whatever it is, it gives us an idea. This is not theory type stuff. Yes, they might have gotten a good deal, or no, they didn't. This is actual real results. And that's the reason I go back and look at these auction results. Let's go over to page 2 here. We'll go to the top. 14,510 is what this person paid. Let's see if they got if they sold it or if they're holding on to it. Topside engineering. Okay. So whoa, this is pretty good here. So this is right up my alley again. This person bought it for 14.6 October 17th. They sold it November 20th. So basically 32 days later, they sold it and they made some money. So purchase price, $14,600. The sales price, $23,500. This person made just shy of $5,000 in 33 days. I mean, that's pretty pretty solid return. It's not overly common to see people sell them quite this quickly. That's right at my style though. I like selling properties very, very quickly. I don't like holding on to them for a year. But the reason I go back a year is because I do know a lot of people holding these properties for a long time. They buy them, they kind of eventually get around to selling them. So we're just kind of checking on that. All right. So that was page 2. Let's see if there's anything else on page 2. A lot of redemptions. Let's look at this one here, 37,000. See if this property has been sold or if they're still holding on to it. Got a warranty. Okay, correct. Okay, that's they hold on that property still. All right, let's go back. We're on page 2. We'll do one more page after this, kind of get an idea. 37. I think we just looked at that one. 23. I don't think we looked at this one yet. All right, let's look at this one and see what we've got here. Okay, so this is again, it looks like a builder bought this one. All right, let's do one more page here. Let's do page 3. Oh, got 2 properties on this one. Take a look at this one and see if anything's good. Okay, that's a good deal. So 2024, right there, $45,300 for this property. It is a single family home. And they resold it about looks like 9 months later for $140,000. Now we don't know exactly how much they put into the property as far as rehab and cleanup and stuff like that. There's really no way of knowing that unless you happen to know the people. But just looking at this, I was hoping to find some photos or some sort of information about it. Don't see anything. I was hoping there'd be maybe someone at Zillow or Realtor.com that would show us, maybe a description like completely gutted or remodeled or whatever else. It does say sold. Okay, so there are some pictures of it. Looks like. Let's see exactly what they say. In the meantime, we're going to go over here and we'll start typing this information into our little net sheet. This is kind of a very shortened version of what I typically use. I like to have it big that everybody can see it online. 45,300. They sold it for 140. All right, 45,300. Yep, 140, $81,000 profit, depending on what they did to the property. We'll see. All right, so it looks like they've got 139.9. Just kind of scrolling through here. Looks like it was listed April 15th, so it did take 78 days to sell, which is not always ideal. Looks like this is interesting. So they put it on the market. Let's see. They purchased it October 2024. They put it on the market immediately at 129.9. They took it off a couple of months later. From January to April, they might have done some work to it, and they sold it eventually for 139. So, okay, so the only permit that is actually recorded for this is a HVAC, $5,100. I don't see anything else that they've done to this property. Now they might have done some cosmetic stuff. Even if you round that up and say they spent 10 grand in rehab, you're still talking $70,000. So $70,000 return in 9 months. I mean, $70,000 in 9 months, not too bad at all. So yeah, but it looks like they had the original idea was to buy it and flip it as is at 129, but they ended up, did a little bit more work to it. Perhaps at the very least, they changed the HVAC unit out. So you're at $70,000, say it, in a pretty short period of time. Let's take a look and see if there's anything else on at this particular cell. On the 7th page, I think it was. 5th page. 5th page we already did. Let's just go all the way back to the 7th page here. I think that might have been okay. Let's look at this one for $50,000. See if they've sold this one yet, or what is going on with this one. And that'll be the last one that we look at today. So we got $50,100. So it looks like they have not sold this property yet. But nonetheless, there's a number of properties. I would say there's 2 or 3 that was purchased by that builder that he built some spec homes on. There's this one here where they made $70,000. A few folks made, $4,000 to $6,000. But, just looking at the sampling of properties that we see at this auction, this is a market that I would probably spend more time researching, and a market that I would hopefully want to invest in. Again, we're looking at stuff from a year ago because a lot of investors take a year to sell their properties. But when we see this, we know people that spent money at this auction, they made money. And that's a very, very promising sign. When you go and you look at a recent tax sale, like this one that happened just last week, you can look at this and you can determine based on the theory whether these people are going to make money or not. So this gentleman paid $10,100. Is the property worth more or is it worth less? And I can come up with ballpark valuations very, very quickly. And, before I was going to invest a lot of time in this county, I certainly would to make sure it is still a profitable market. But the stuff that we saw where those people, again, most people take 12 months or so to sell a property, that is factual data. That is stuff that we can know, these people made money. But what we're looking at right now, whether they made money, last week when they bought the property, where they bought it at a price where they'll make money or not, that kind of remains to be seen. But again, based on what we've seen today, this is an area that I want to invest in. And based even on what I see right here, let's take a look at the next auction. You've got 2 pages of properties that are going to be sold. So it's not like there's 1 or 2 properties. Maybe they post the properties once every month or so. But yeah, they've got some properties that are going to be sold. So it looks like a market that I would definitely continue to research and potentially place some bids on properties there. That's the process that I go through when I am working to identify profitable markets that I want to invest in the future. I truly hope that this walkthrough has helped you out. For more information, make sure you check out all the links below, including the one to our comprehensive training platform at taxsaleacademy.com. Take care, folks. Bye-bye.